Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new broadcast of WCS America Premier League. Today it's time for Group H, as it is Wednesday the 4th of June. And I'm of course Ken van der Kooi, also known as Ro32, today known as the Golden Boy with the golden tie. And with me is Nathan Fabricant. Nate, are you excited for today's group? Because you have not been casting a whole lot of StarCraft lately, so how awesome is it to sit here again, to finally cast some StarCraft again, Nate?
To finally cast some StarCraft again, I could not be more excited. We have, Group H, I think, for Hydralisk. There's lots of Zergs in this group. We could be expecting a lot of craziness. Goodness knows what could happen, of course. This is the round of 32 overall. And as you guys can see, this is the final group of the round of 32. So not much more to be decided. Just 2 more players to come chill with us in California.
Exactly. We know 14 out of the 16 participants for WCS America round of 16, where we are giving away a lot of prize money, a lot of WCS points, and of course, above all, we'll try to put on a fantastic show for all you guys at home, and of course, treat these players like the superstars they are as well. All eyes for today are going to be on Group H. Nate, it is a Protoss and it's 3 Zergs, so there is no joy for your Terran heart, but there is a lot of joy for your StarCraft heart. Of course, we have Suppy, we have Sen, we have Arthur, and I think before we go over the players, we should just probably take a look at who is playing who. Of course, we know that, but we want to show you guys as well, as we have an interesting encounter between Arthur and Suppy. That is going to be our first match of today, followed by a ZVZ between 2 excellent Zergs from the Far East. Of course, Sen from Taiwan and Jigua from China. But let's talk about Arthur Suppy. Nate, do you believe in a thing called the Suppy?
I believe in the Suppy. Suppy is our last American standing in the round of 32, although it is our last group, of course, so I guess kind of just goes without saying. But he's the last player that could get to the round of 16.
He's also the last one standing. I mean, you were technically not wrong.
Yeah, he is also the last one standing, or proverbially sitting to play StarCraft.
Or he stands, you never know. But he's quite tall.
He is. He's quite taller than me.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's an exciting day. I think on paper, any of these players can truly make it out of this group. If there's one thing that we've learned from last season, WCS America Premier League Season 1, it is that no one can underestimate Arthur, and that it's very, very important that you scout all the time. When you play against Arthur, he likes to refer to himself as Sad Arthur, but I don't think he has to be all that sad after winning thousands of dollars in WCS America Premier League Season 1 with a lot of clutch force fields that were often on the ramp.
Yep. And I mean, of course, he's already got 2,000 in the bag for making Premier League for this season. If he moves on to the round of 16, you get another 1,000. You guarantee yourself into the next season of Premier. So I think Arthur's going to be looking to make the other players in this group quite sad, as despite overall results, he's still a pretty strong player in this group.
Happy Arthur confirmed.
Have you, Arthur, confirmed?
Of course, we want to hear from you guys as well. As always, please reach out to us. Yesterday, a lot of you guys did, and it was a lot of fun to go through all your tweets. Hashtag WCS for everything that you guys want to tell us, or that you want to tell your favorite players, or perhaps even the tournament. And of course, make sure to follow us as well at Facebook or twitter.com/StarCraft and twitter.com/ESLTV, and you can do the exact same thing on Facebook. But on Facebook, Nate, technically you don't follow, you like.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you do like us. So all you need to do now is just make that commitment to go the extra mile and let everybody else know you like us. That's what we care.
You know, when it's on Facebook, it's public. It's
That's
official.
True. It's not official till it's on Facebook.
No. And if you have officially liked us on Facebook, then we reached a whole new level.
That's right. Our friendship grows, and you can grow your friendship with these players by checking them out in our fantasy league as well that we've been running. Pretty cool to see so far. The last 2 players that you can add to your American region will be available after today. You pick 2 players from each region, starting with the round of 16, and you say, okay, he's going to make it to the playoffs, he's going to win it, and then your points are based off of the actual performance of the players you choose. So pick your favorites and they lose, they won't get you too much, and everyone will know that you lost because we have a global ranking. It's at fantasy.eslgaming.com/SC2 Fantasy WCS. We love fantasy sports here in America.
Yes, we do. I've noticed as well. Do you know this TV series called The League? It's very fun, actually. It's one of my favorite series.
I don't know about the TV show.
Okay, it's about an NFL fantasy league and just a bunch of people. Basically, just a sitcom, but it's very fun.
You ever play NFL fantasy?
No, I don't know enough about it. I would ask Jeff.
I always pick my favorite players and I lose. I'm like, Mark Sanchez will definitely get a year again.
I'm very good at filling out like the World Cup brackets, though. We're going to do that, and hopefully a lot of you guys at home will do that as well. Either way, you guys are not here to hear us talk about sitcoms and reality TV. You guys are here for StarCraft, so let's just go ahead and get ready for our very first game. It is Arthur from former ESC Gaming. I believe he's currently teamless. Well, actually, it says he's still on ESC Gaming, but there were a few tweets out there that might tell us otherwise. But he's going up against Suppy, who is very happy with EG, and hopefully EG is very happy with Suppy. It's been a happy marriage between those two for a while, and I'm expecting big things of Suppy. Nate, today's Group H, I would say hashtag the Group of Hope, as Suppy could be the very last. He's the last American standing, but he could also be the very first true American. An American that runs around with bald eagles and drives a Ford F-150 to make it to the round of 16. Because I think he can do it, Nate. I think this is a very good group on paper for Suppy. His ZVZ has always been excellent. He has great macro. And I think as long as he's aware of the fact that he's not playing his ordinary Protoss, but he's playing against Arthur, he should be able to do this.
Arthur's the kind of player, as long as you play safe, play scout, play smart, but most importantly, don't do anything too crazy yourself where he could find him. Because I feel like we've seen a lot of these players that are more comfortable with the crazy situations excel, but make a very good point. And Suppy, I mean, this could be the run.
The run. This could start it all. You know, it's interesting. I went through Suppy's WCS history a little bit. And of course, in WCS America 2013 Season 1, Suppy was one of those guys that we could cheer for. He made it to the round of 16. And that was just the start of this promising player, Suppy, that was hopefully going to be that consistent force in WCS. But that hasn't really been the case. Season 2 and Season 3 last year, he was eliminated in the round of 32. Of course, he had very difficult groups as well. But yeah, still, he's one of our very best Zergs. So we were hoping for more. And last season, he didn't even qualify for Premier League after losing to Comine, I believe. No, Massa, excuse me, another Canadian talent. In a very close series, 3-2. But it's awesome to see that Suppy is back in Premier League. He is good. I know he's been practicing a lot. And I'm expecting some Suppy magic over here.
Yeah, definitely hoping for the best out of our last American standing here in WCS America. And, well, guys, we're pretty much loaded into the game. It's time to find out whether he can topple Arthur, get an early lead in this group, or we're going to have Arthur starting to check as the only Protoss. Of course, we're loaded in. Our first map is Overgrowth, and our player spawning to the bottom left position. The blue Zerg player representing evil geniuses. It is Suppy.
DAE Suppy?
I Suppy. You Suppy. He, she, it Suppies.
We Suppy together. I Suppy'd in the past.
We've all Suppy. We've all been there.
Have you ever Suppy'd?
We all know that feel, Roddy. His opponent in the top right position, who shares the feel I guess we've also felt before.
No.
It used to be sad.
I have never experienced that feeling.
From Team Spectre, it is Arthur.
There we go. I knew it wasn't ESC Gaming, Nate.
It changed super recently.
That is true. That's a pretty cool decal, I'm not gonna lie. That reminds me of the Dota hero called Spectre.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wasn't sure if it would look like the StarCraft 2 Spectre.
One of the most boring heroes ever. It's like, let's do nothing for 25 minutes and then be awesome, or keep being useless. Either way, I'm curious to see what Arthur is going to bring to the table today, Nate. We already went over this a little bit. We touched on this. Arthur is not your standard Protoss. He is a guy that will try to do whatever is necessary. He is basically what everybody hates about Protoss when you're playing ladder. You're like, no, I don't want to get force fielded out of my main or out of my natural. No, I don't want to see an 8-gate War Prism. And no, I definitely don't want to see cannons. And Arthur does it all, but he can do more than that. He's a dangerous player because he plays like that so often, and if he sees a window of opportunity, he's going to capitalize on it. He's going to try to straight up win the game. You know, if you have two ends of the spectrum, and on the one end you have Rain or Zest, who's completely trying to outplay his opponent and then win in a beautiful way, then on the other end of the spectrum there's Arthur. And there's nothing against it, it's just no nonsense, you know? What we saw in the past of MC, he just wants to win and he doesn't care how he does it.
Alright, so on a scale of Rain to top, where does he fall? Is he like Crank level, or a little below, a little above as far as the cheesiness?
He's more cheesy than Crank.
Alright.
I mean, to say that he's as cheesy as Stop, that is, well, there's only one Finnish Protoss who can ever claim that title, and that is Elfi. Nah, he's a relatively cheesy Protoss, and we'll see. Either way, we are chit-chatting a lot. We see that the Extractor is going down in the main base of Suppy. I like this, Nate. And tell me, Nate, why do I like this? I want to hear it from you.
Okay, well, Gateway expands. Situation where you don't have that fast wall up. Speed is always nice defensively. We have a Stalker being chrono boosted out. Gateway on the way. With only one gas for Arthur, Suppy's Overlord will see this, but there's a good potential that Arthur throws down a couple extra gates and tries to really turn up the heat, as it were, as he gets closer to getting Warp Gate.
I agree with the majority of things that you said, but there is one more important thing. Of course, it is 100 times easier to find hidden probes on the map when you have speed and when you don't have speed. Slow Zerglings, it takes a little while before they're able, and they're also able to check every corner of the map, and they are easily distracted. They might follow something they shouldn't follow. So I'm very happy to see Suppy open up with speed, because with speed you should always see probes that are out on the map. You know, this guy gets pushed back to his base, but I'm pretty damn sure that Suppy is going to check every corner, keep control of the Zelnaga watchtowers, put Overlords in good positions, because you are playing against Arthur, and Arthur, he likes to hide probes around the map. It's actually a 4 gateway opening already.
Yeah, with one tucked behind his cybernetics core.
Good news for Suppy, in my opinion. With a speed open, you should be able to shut this down. He also has the Overlord next to the base. This is the only position where probes can currently leave. So, you know, so far everything seems to be going all right for our Suppy.
Suppy sees the second gas finally being taken by Arthur. He knows that at least one of the geysers in the natural is not being taken. But I think if he sees this fourth gateway behind the cybernetics core, which he should be able to spot, because he does see it, he should know, right? He just make some links, try to defend.
He clicks on it immediately, but now he's probably a little confused. He's like, okay, 4 gates, well, I assume that you want to do something with this, right? Or what else are you going to do? If you're just going to expand, then I could probably run you over with roaches, because your immortals are going to be so late, or even blink for that matter. And just look at the minimap. We are looking at set Arthur's point of view right now, but if you look at Suppy, you can see a lot of stuff moving. And hey, look what we had over here. We have a probe. Speedlings find it, Speedlings kill it. I'm loving it so far from Suppy. It all makes sense.
Yeah, this is, you mentioned it, it's one of the better parts of the way that Suppy's opened up. And look at this, he's walling himself out now of his natural. Still producing quite a few probes. How do you feel about this? Like, does he need to make any more?
I mean, we saw this the other day where someone went for a full wall off and still eventually transitioned out of it, but I am so happy to see this Roach Warren go down, because you don't just want to rely on Zerglings. Zerglings are very good, but with good force fields and Zealots in tricky positions, an unlimited amount of Zerglings will still fail to take out certain armies. But I love what he's doing over here. He's going to slow this push down a little bit, save time for that Roach Warren, and as soon as that Roach Warren finishes up, Roaches are good against every single unit that Arthur currently has out on the map.
So one pylon now on the way by that third base as Arthur takes some gas and starts his robo. Moving a spine crawler over, trying to defend this is Suppy. Zergling speed's done. The roaches are coming in now.
A few Zerglings are still going to try to work on this pylon as well. In the end, Arthur just wants to slow him down, maybe pick off that hatchery. I mean, he does have plenty of force fields to work with. Roaches are coming, but they're still a little late to this party, Nate. I'm so happy to see that spine crawler there, because that's actually going to buy a little bit of time for Suppy.
Yep, Queen's trying to poke as well. The mothership core gets quite low.
No.
It's barely slipping out.
I'm very surprised he just used the time warp. That means that he's not able to recall out now. If Suppy would have taken out these rocks, I guess he never really had time to do that. But if he surrounds his army, he's going to have plenty of roaches. Eventually, Arthur wants to retreat. He's not going to win the game with this push. He's also aware of this, because he has a robo at home. But Suppy, with all of these roaches, all of these Zerglings, Arthur has to make damn sure that he never gets surrounded.
Yeah, it's one. You said it. He can't escape. So obviously, it looks like Arthur wants to just step back. He could continue to warp in and maybe eventually move the Immortals out by themselves, but really you just want to save this gateway force, get an even bigger attack, because if you look at Suppy's side of things, he's actually down almost 10 workers. He's still producing just Zerglings.
Yeah.
And
that is one of the tricky things as well when you play against a player like Arthur. You want to make sure that you don't die to something stupid, so you're just like, alright, I'm going to make units, and then sometimes you might slightly overreact, and it's a very thin line between overreacting or underreacting, because hey, if you underreact, you lose your third base and you're pretty much dead. If you overreact, well, then you don't have any units to work with. But don't get too sad when looking at this worker tab. If you are a fan of Suppy, or if you're a fan of Evil Geniuses, Zerg can make a crazy amount of units of 48 workers, and the immortal count is not that high. It's only 2 immortals. There's no prism on the map just yet. I wonder if he's going to follow this up with a prism. So I think there is still hope for Suppy, despite the worker count not being fantastic. He should be able to produce a ludicrous amount of Zerglings and roaches.
Yeah, he's going to take down those rocks, which will open up a new opportunity to flank the Protoss force when it next makes its way over here. Big warping of Stalkers.
Yeah, if all of the units come from one side, then obviously Arthur is going to have the time of his life dropping force fields, and that's why I'm very happy to see that Suppy took out the debris. But from this point on, it's all going to come down to the engagement, and I must say that Arthur's army is actually a little scarier than I thought it was going to be. He doesn't have +1 though, so Zerglings are actually not super useless. On creep, of course, this is going to go a lot better for Suppy. The first wave of force fields is going to go down, and he's able to pick up that pylon perhaps as well. Zerglings swimming in from the back.
Yep, he's trying to hit the Immortals as well with the Zerglings. He picks off the shields for some of them. Those Roaches not being hit by the Immortals is quite nice. That Spine Crawler doing work. Picks off one of the Immortals. And just a few Lings come from behind. He gets the last Immortal in this force. It's just Roachling versus this Gateway army. More force fields being dropped, but he's out of Sentry energy now. And that War Prism is nice to reinforce, but units instantly get killed. Suppy getting right on top of this Protoss force. And once these force fields are gone, I don't think there's too much to actually stop Suppy from just overrunning this army.
Nope, without Blink, these Stalkers will fall. These Roaches on creep are definitely better than these Stalkers are on creep. And Arthur is forced to abandon this mission. That War Prism was late to the party.
What a fantastic defense, really, of that attack.
Yes, definitely it was, but it was also a big mistake by Arthur to let that fight truly unfold already, let it really start going before that Prism is there, because if he picks up those 2 Immortals and he drops it behind, you're looking at a completely different fight. Losing those Immortals, you know, those are the backbone of your army. Those are the units that actually kill Roaches.
Yeah, it's trying to go for the counter push here. There are 2 Immortals, and he's starting to, he's using the Photon Overcharge, but Suppy's content to just kill the Gateways, continue to try to run in and get some damage done. He's picked off the shields of one of the Immortals, and well, he's really forcing the issue here.
Yeah, I don't mind it too much. I think it's going to be fine in the long run. There is no Photon Overcharge. He's picking off a few Gateways as well. These Immortals are still quite exposed. Another Sentry is going to fall. 1 Immortal is going to fall as well. And Suppy had like 18 Roaches on the production tab. Excellent start for Suppy. Excellent first game.
Yeah, not bad at all. Up 125 supply to 78. Warp Prism's going to make its way over. There's 2 Sentries and 2 Zealots in there. Arthur's going to try to cut off the main from the natural. Will it work? Well, there's already Roaches here.
Yep. Suppy is aware of this. Suppy has probably gone over a couple of the VODs that Arthur has played in Season 1. Plenty of information for Suppy out there, and he definitely knows how Arthur can win games. So, excellent game, Nate. There's really not too much to it. Of course, are we looking at a completely different game if that War Prism is here in time and actually picks up those 2 Immortals? I think we are. But yeah, I don't think it matters.
No, not too much anymore. Burrow on the way. Roach movement while burrowed. Upgrade coming in as well as +1 attack. And Arthur is just cranking out Immortals. At what point, like, where do you go from here, Kev? I'm not a Protoss. I have no idea what Arthur's supposed to do from this position. This looks bleak. Oh, that War Prism.
Oh, he's still going to try, and he actually lands a force field. Really, Arthur? Well, yep. Drops another force field, and he's going to keep doing this for a long time. How many Roaches do we have hatch in the main? Probably not at... how long can he keep doing this, though?
One of the force fields was a bit off, so he's able to slip a few Roaches through. He's trying to kill a Sentry.
He picks up 1. That's very important. There is still a little bit of gas left for Arthur as well, so he could theoretically drop 2 more Sentries, but he feels like he just can't do it. He's not going to have enough DPS to actually kill these Roaches, so he will back off for now. And soon Thunder and Claws is about to finish up, so even if that force field would have landed a few more times, eventually these Roaches, maybe the Observer actually saw the Roach War and wiggle as well, and Arthur is like, I shouldn't do this.
Alright, well, we've got one last big, ginormous, but there's 4 Immortals.
Soon to be 5.
Oh my God.
How is he going to do this? Because this Immortal is going to spawn here, but it's going to be walled off.
That's his anchor.
Like it's
his anchor back home, just in case.
I don't think it can go through. Either way, Suppy is getting ready to jump on top of this army. He has Tunneling Claws as well, and that should be the key to victory.
Yep, coming right in. Even with the force field, he's able to get on top of this force. Warp Prism misses the first pickup on the Immortals. He's not even going to be able to micro them out. Gets both of them. GG is called, and Suppy Our American Zerg player takes the first map here in this best of 3 to kick off Group H.
Yeah, I think Suppy played very good, and I think this was a real example of Suppy playing against the player Arthur, and not necessarily Suppy playing ZVP. Because Suppy actually has a pretty distinctive playstyle in general. I think his playstyle is relatively similar to someone like Scarlet. I've seen Suppy a lot in the past, you know, go for the upgraded Zergling style, something that we know that Scarlet loves to do, and in the old days, players like Ghost User, Sasquatch, I know they had a group as well on Sky where they always discuss strategies, and they all kind of played in their own unique way. But I think this was a lot more straight up, a lot more standard, and I really think this has so much to do with the fact that Suppy is like, I'm not gonna open Gaslit against someone like Arthur. That's just wishing. I'm just wishing trouble. Then I'm just calling it upon myself. Of course, it is still possible to defend certain pushes, but if you open up with speed, you just make your life so much easier against an hyper aggro Protoss like Arthur.
Like, why take the risk, honestly, if you're up against a player that you know is going to be super aggressive? We were talking about it. You mentioned yourself, heavy gateway aggression. That's exactly what came. Suppy, you know, he's not a fool. He's a smart guy, and taking enough time to prepare for this match and looking at the kinds of strategies that Arthur is going to do is a smart move by him. The question is, what's Arthur going to break out for game number 2? Will Suppy be ready this time around? That's going to be determinant, you know, who's going to win.
You know, it's going to be tough. I think it really is a tough day for Arthur, because Arthur is a great player, and don't get me wrong, he's been like top 8 of the Korean server in the past Grandmaster League, so he's really high up there. He had a very successful run in WCS America Season 1. He made it to the round of 8. That is very impressive. I think that was probably the biggest tournament result in his career. But the way that he plays Protoss, the more people know about you, the more replays that are out there, the worse those kind of strategies are. And he really has to bring something else to the table than he's done in the past, because I feel there's too much on the line now. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of prestige on the line for Suppy, and even for the other guys, that they can just go unprepared in this series and that they didn't do their homework. They definitely did. And you know, you might be able to, in a best of 3, or if you play 2 best of 3s, yeah, you might be able to bust something out like that once, or go for a Warp Prism, 7-gate, stuff like that. Try to rely on a force field on the ramp, but you can't make your entire day based on stress like that. You're gonna have to play some solid macro as well, and it's been a while since I saw Arthur do that, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's you know, maybe he's gonna bust out something more macro focused. King Sejong Station is the map we're gonna be playing the second game on. How do you like this for the gateway aggression? Obviously, there's a couple of different ways that you can attack a Zerg player based on, you know, obviously the rocks and then just the direct path. But is this a Warp Prism map? Is a trickery going to work on this map?
Well, there is quite a bit of airspace around the sides of each base, so you could say that eventually it is really hard to cover everything and to cover all the ground where you normally can position units, so you need overlords in the right position. But you know, if your opponent is actively thinking about that, this kind of Warp Prism stuff often works when your opponent just doesn't see it coming, when he's playing on the autopilot mode and he's not actively scouting. I definitely think that Suppy is very well prepared today. I know that he wants to go very far. He's probably been practicing a lot for this as well. So if I was Arthur, I would just go for a straight up style. And Suppy is still a very scary opponent, even when you're playing a macro game against him. I actually think that's where Suppy shines way more than in defending timing attacks and stuff like that. Because I actually think that Suppy's, for instance, his late game ZVT, that's not going to help him today because there is no Terran in this group. But Suppy's late game ZVT macro is one of the absolute best that we have in the foreign scene.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if he can bring it to the table, or if this next game will end shortly again. Our blue Zerg player up a map in the bottom right position, representing Evil Geniuses, it is Suppy.
America. Do you think Suppy owns a Ford F-150 yet?
I think Suppy has, if he wins WCS America this season, he'll get the eagle tattooed on his shoulder. If I won WCS America, I would. His opponent in the top left position, playing for Team Spectre, it is Arthur.
So far, everything is very standard. As the pylon is going up on the high ground, I was kind of thinking perhaps Arthur is going to drop the pylon on the low ground and drop a forge and try to do some cannon shenanigans, as Suppy did go hatch first in the last game. That's not going to be the case this time, as we do see a drone scout by Suppy as well.
Yeah, kind of interesting. This probe's going to the bottom left of his meat. What is it?
No, he's just like avoiding this drone from blocking the Nexus.
So
Arthur is going to go Nexus first.
Because if Suppy knew this, he could just put a hatch there, right?
Yeah, this is very smart. I like this. It's not just that, it's that Suppy is able to block this Nexus going up for a while, and then suddenly instead of 400 minerals, you will be floating 500 or 600 or sometimes even, I mean not 700, because then you still be dropping the gateway, but it can be very frustrating, and this drone can be really annoying. So cute little move here by Arthur. I really like it. Just hide the probe for a few seconds. Makes your life a lot easier.
Alright, makes sense. I like it. Gateway on the way to follow that up. And the Overlord, well, that's not really going to do too much since he already knows that it was a Nexus first. So obviously Arthur's got good economy set up from this build. Do you think this just segues into maybe a faster attack off 2 bases?
I mean, with Arthur, I will never say no, but this is also a reasonably good Stargate map. I've seen Arthur do some crazy Stargate builds in the past as well. You can open up with an Oracle, maybe even multiple Oracles, sometimes a bunch of Phoenixes into a gateway all in, something that Maxat likes to do, and Roddy. I really don't know, Nate. It's very hard to predict, but if I was Suppy, I would again go with the speed, and he's already mining gas. I actually missed the extractor going down. I just think it makes a lot of sense. This is a relatively large map, so it's easier to hide probes than on Overgrowth, in my opinion. It's just there are a few more tricky corners where it's a little harder for the Zerg player to actually find these probes. But just play it standard. If I was Suppy, I think Suppy did a lot of things right. He even played it very safe the last game. Like, he stopped droning very early on. He made a lot of speed links. He made a lot of roaches just to defend those 4 gates, but he never underreacted. And like I said before, even when his economy didn't look all that good and he was down 10 workers in a phase in the game where normally you don't want to be down 10 workers, it is okay because he was playing against unupgraded gateway units. The Immortal push was going to be a lot later, and you know, 48 workers or 51 drones, you can still produce a crazy amount of Zerglings and roaches. Normally enough to actually shut down most pushes.
Well, it's going to be important that he stays aware of what exactly Arthur is up to in that case. I'm mostly wondering, like, so Cybernetics core's done. He's got a Sentry and a Mothership core coming out. Pylon blocks the 3rd. Feels a bit late for a pylon block, but
it's still annoying. It's actually pretty smart because obviously Suppy just wants to produce drones from this point, and the 2 Zerglings that he had were actually all the way on the other side of the map. So this is a minor investment, but will definitely slow down the economy from Suppy quite a bit. I don't mind it at all, Nate. I think it's a pretty smart move by Arthur.
Alright, take your word for it. 2 more gateways coming up for Arthur back home. Still no Stargate, Robotics Facility, Twilight count, so nothing. Maybe, maybe a fast 3rd?
And if it's just these 2 Zerglings, and okay, we have 2 more Zerglings on the way, I wouldn't have actually been surprised if he drops a gateway over here and then just cancels it at the very last moment to delay this base even further. You see 2 gateways being added now, and there is indeed a probe heading okay, just making sure that these sentries will do the job of keeping Zerglings out. Being the scary bounces that they are. I wouldn't mess with a bouncer that can pop Guardian shields and tickle me with little laser beams. It's basically a taser.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can actually just force you out anyway.
Yeah, as well as like, hey, you're not coming into the
bounces at force fields.
I swear I'm not drunk. Go away.
Should I like run to the door? It's just.
Hey, we don't want you in here. You're too drunk. Go home. I'm not drunk. Leave me in. Then you get force fielded out of the place. That would be sad, eh?
Gas finish up in the natural for Arthur. Just going to town. Couple lings are going to come across the map. It's a pretty reasonable amount. Suppy wants to know what's going on. There's really not much to see, even if you were to get into the space. Now there's a couple gates being added on, but only 2. Okay, 3. I guess this feels like a really, really late time for a 2-base like heavy gateway attack without any tech. Could he have gotten these gates faster, you think, or was the whole point of hiding them for this long?
I mean, right now, at least by the time they will all finish up at the same time, so then he's going to have a super big warp in, but it is a little, yeah, it's just another 8 gate. I'm sorry that I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer now, but this is not very inspiring Protoss play. Anyone can do it, and I know that Arthur is so much better than just going for these super straight-up gateway attacks. What he has been doing is he's been doing a very good job in hiding the information. Suppy is definitely a little confused. He's even bringing home a few Zerglings. If you guys wonder, like, Suppy, why do you have your Zerglings here? That is because Suppy is worried that somehow a warp prism has made its way across the map and is going to unload a few sentries on this ramp. He's even dropping spore crawlers in case of DTs. So you can see that Suppy is quite paranoid about what is going on here. He knows he's playing against Arthur. He knows that Arthur is crazy. And it's going to be just a ridiculously big 8-gate attack with a crazy amount of sentries. Suppy does scout it with one Zergling, so he's gonna... Oh, he's so close to finding this pylon. If that would help out a lot. It's gonna slow the push down. It's gonna have to be roaches and roaches only, and hopefully burrow for Suppy.
Yeah, he sees the first couple units warping in with that Overlord just barely in his vision, but...
I'm worried for Suppy.
Is it too late, Kev?
Yeah, I think his roach production is a little late. The roach speed is long way off. He doesn't really have any roaches out on the map now. He misread this a tiny bit. I mean, he has a lot of roaches in production. If Arthur gives him time, if Arthur is respecting the creep over here, that could be good news for Suppy. Every second works in favor of Suppy, as roaches are very strong against gateway units like this, but without tunneling claws, without burrow, and there's so many force fields. I don't know, Nate.
I don't know, Kev. He's got a very large gateway force, as you'd mentioned. Suppy has decided to forfeit the third base. I can't really fault him for that. Obviously, this Overseer can see what he's up against now.
Oh.
It's like, oh, yeah, so that's where the everything was, huh?
The good old 8 gate.
Good old 8 gate. He just GG's right out.
Yeah, Suppy knows what time it is. He was also supply blocked in the final moments of that game. He had quite a bit of money, 500, 600 minerals, 500 gas, but he couldn't spend it because he was supply blocked after losing one Overlord in the left bottom side of the map as well that scouted that pylon. He realized, he's like, all right, well, I was preparing for 4 things, but it was number 5. It happens.
You know, I have to say, like, even when we look at it, like at least as a Terran player, when I look at that setup that Arthur has, it's like, okay, well, I've seen players like Puck have this setup and go for a third base. He sent the Mothership Core on a probe out over to the third. He killed the Zergling that was there for Suppy, and you know, Suppy, he eventually checked in again with another Zergling to that third base and saw that there wasn't a Nexus, but maybe you think if this Roach Warren was earlier, was Suppy a little too carefree that game?
Yeah, 2 things. Maybe a slightly quicker Roach Warren and also denying that pylon from going up in the left bottom side of the map, because that pylon does speed up the attack with just 15 to 20 seconds, because now he's already able to warp in there and he doesn't have to march across the map with that big sentry army, then warp in a pylon and then like warp in all those units and then go for it. And maybe if Suppy has a quicker Roach Warren and he finds that pylon quicker, he's going to have a few more roaches. I also truly think that against Arthur, it's totally worth it to throw in like a burrow attack halfway through. There was plenty of gas in the bank for Suppy as well, and I think that burrow is almost always worth it against a player like Arthur. Worst comes to worst, he does have an observer. You can still use it to heal your roaches when there's a battle and you temporarily retreat. But in some other scenarios against all these force fields, having burrow is actually a game saver.
Yeah, I could not agree more. So the series is tied 1 apiece now, and that means one more map will determine who goes on to the winner's match and who goes down to the loser's match. You're either going to be 1 series away from going up into round of 16 or being eliminated.
Yeah, I'm very curious what the final map is. I was not part of the veto process, so I'm completely in the dark. If I think logically, it could definitely be Frost. And
yeah,
I actually think
looks like Frost.
It is Frost?
I think so, yeah.
All right, well. What a guess by me, right? I actually think Frost is a good map for Suppy. Frost is one of the maps that he obviously still has more experience on than a map like King's Young Station. He knows what to position the Overlords. He knows what to check. He knows at what time certain attacks are going to hit. And on one of those newer maps, I'm sure that Suppy has played plenty of games already on King's Young Way Station and Merry-Go-Round, but still nowhere near as many as he did on Frost, that has been part of the ladder map pool for so many more months. So I think this is a good map for Suppy, and obviously, you want to play against the player, you want to be active, you want to be careful, but you also have to go back to your own common game knowledge and be like, hey, because I really think I was surprised that Suppy had no Overlord at all at the side of either bases. He had the closest Overlord was the one in the natural, but he had no other Overlord inside, and I was a tiny bit surprised by that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, he was so close to even spotting that pylon earlier. Why, you know, the Overlord went there at such a late point in time, but just a couple minutes, maybe you just got that a minute ahead of time or see it when it's building, you shut it down, suddenly that big warp in of 7 or so Stalkers comes a little bit later, you get a little more time, and even though, as dire as it looked with the supply block as well, maybe there's a bit of a chance for him. So we're counting down into the 3rd and final game of our first series of the day here at Premier League for WCS America, and this is our final group for the round of 32. So Suppy would love to go out, he'd love to get to the winner's match, but it seems that Arthur would also like to get out.
Of course, Knight. There's a lot of money on the line, and who doesn't want to hang out with us in Southern California and eat some barbecue? Barbecue's pretty good over here.
Barbecue's pretty good over here.
People think it's good in Texas and in the South. No. Southern California, that's what it's all about. I took Nate to barbecue yesterday. It was great. Either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have so many cool players already coming over and so many cool characters in the StarCraft 2 scene. And I really hope that Suppy will be here as well as a sort of a born and raised native resident of the state of California. At least he went to university here, so I assume that he was born in California. Can you confirm this?
I do not actually know where Suppy's originally from.
Well, I know he went to UC Berkeley, so...
Yeah.
And most of the time you're from this area, right? Even though it's a very prestigious school, so he could be from all over the place. But I just said it. Suppy, born and raised in California, and I hope I'm right. I think I'm right. Of course, he representing Evil Geniuses, spawning in the right bottom side of Frost. As our Blue Zerg, it is Suppy. Fighting for bald eagles, freedom, and all the other good things that America has to offer.
Things
Suppy,
worth fighting for.
couldn't have said it better.
His opponent in the top left position, spawning as the red Protoss player who, I mean, very direct with his gateways. In Team Spectre, it is Arthur.
Arthur doesn't mess around when it's about gateways against Zerg.
No, he does not. He loves those gateways.
And of course, we always want to give credit where credit is due. Even though it's not like the most inspiring Protoss play that we've ever seen and be like, wow, this is fantastic, it's 8 gates and he marches across the map and he's gonna win. But in the end of the day, it is not that easy because, you know, if I try to 8 gate Suppy, it's going to be ugly, it's going to fail. So Arthur is definitely doing a lot of stuff right. He's preventing information, and he's also using the image that he has about it as this crazy Protoss. Because normally Suppy wouldn't have had those Zerglings on his ramp in that phase in the game. He still had one Zergling on the top side of the map, so would that have made the difference? I don't know. But it's very obvious that Suppy is paranoid about a lot of things. He was even throwing down spore crawlers. It is hard to read a player like Arthur, and I'm sure that Arthur is aware of the image that he has as well. It's a little bit like poker, you know? In poker you have a table image, here you have a Protoss image.
Hey, man. If everybody knows you as that guy that mind drops, not mind dropping sometimes is a good thing. Playing against your reputation, but so far Arthur is, well, he's made it work at least in that second game by kind of doing what we would expect from him anyway.
Once again, we see the extractor go down in the main base for Suppy. I don't mind it, Nate. Frost also a relatively large map, even though we know it so well that most Zerg players are good enough to find whatever probe is hidden with slow Zerglings, but you never know what's going to happen. A couple of Stalkers in the middle of the map could throw your process off of actually trying to find, and before you know it, there's going to be another big warp in of Protoss units. So I think it's a smart decision by Suppy. He's going to have to play very alert, but also not too afraid.
Yeah, it's most important that you don't over or under commit, right? That's the hardest part. At least, you know, when I play Zerg, when you look at Zerg, it's all about getting as many drones as you can without dying. And sure, you can get a big army off 2 bases, but someone like Arthur will go for that big attack like we saw on the first map, and then they go home and they come back with an even larger force, and suddenly you say, well, I wish I was mining resources that whole time.
I think cross spawn is also good for Suppy, and I actually think if Arthur was going to play a macro game once in this series, this is probably the game for it. Cross spawn Frost is definitely not a bad position for a Protoss to just start macroing up, maybe open up with a Stargate, throw down some gateways, go up to 3 bases, get some Colossus. Once again, Arthur is a very good Protoss player. You don't get top 8 on the Korean server in Grandmaster League with just gateway all-inning, you know, that just does not happen. So he's capable of more than doing just that. But so far in WCS America, he's shown us a lot of gateway-oriented attacks without too many upgrades.
Oh, hey, the less you show of your hand now, the less there is people to study for you in the later stages, right?
Yep.
This poor little probe never had a chance, Roddy.
Alright, well, another probe is heading out immediately via the south side of the map. Does this Overlord spot it? This Overlord has no vision of it. Once again, this is why I think it's good that Suppy went with speed, because this probe would be very, very hard to find if you have slow Zerglings from this point on. Either way, we see 2 more gateways go down as part of this wall. Arthur is mining off both simulators in the main base, so you can still go to... you can still take this many ways. You could even still expand Puck style.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all.
But it is Arthur.
Yeah, it is Arthur. Overlord's going to come into the main base, trying to see if there is anything worth seeing, anything to see. And
there isn't yet.
There's not much to see at all, Kev.
And I don't mind this scout from Suppy because this is 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So there are crazy gaming at gateway attacks that could definitely hit by now. So then he would have spotted all these gateways. So I think it's smart by Suppy that he sent it Overlord in. Unfortunately for him, Arthur is hiding the information. Now Arthur is going to reveal his real hand. But Arthur is also moving out with a Zealot and a Mothership Force. Suppy made quite a few Zerglings. as he's just like, hey, I don't like where this is going. I don't know what's going on yet. He still hasn't found his probe. Arthur has still not really shown us, Nate, what he wants to do. Okay, is it gateway time, Nate? Is it gateway time?
Rev up those gateways, Roddy.
Count for me in Spanish.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. That's all we got.
Yep, that's how far I go as well, because Pitbull never counts any further in his songs, and my Spanish is bad. Either way, it's going to be another 8 gateway attack for Arthur. Ro32 is a tiny bit quicker. The attack is going to hit later. Did he find this probe, Nate? This probe actually represents Arthur's hopes of winning this game.
That probe is Arthur's hopes and dreams, right there, I mean, embodied.
Okay, he's getting, is this 48 probes, I guess? Yeah, full saturation, 2 bases, and then getting all the assimilated as well. 32 plus 6 plus 6. Oh, wait.
Roach speed is on the way. There are roaches on the way, so a very different makeup already in army composition from Suppy.
Yep.
He won't be caught quite as off guard as he was last time.
Not at all, even. He still has this one happy little Zergling over here on the south side. He has no vision of this army moving out, but he does have vision of both Zelnaga watchtowers, and now this little Zergling. You're the real MVP. He's going to see all these sentries. He's going to see the army moving across the map. I would really, really love to see Burrow. I think Burrow would just be fantastic against this army, because there is no robotics facility. There is no observer with it. So Burrow is so fantastic. Suppy again a tiny bit supply block, but that won't happen anymore. It's all going to come down to the engagements. How good will the force fields be? Roaches on creep should not die to gateway units. But imagine if we had Burrow, Nate. How beautiful would life be if you're on Team Suppy?
I would be happy with Burrow on Team Suppy.
Yep. And if I was Arthur right now, I'd be like, oh, I hope he doesn't have Burrow. He's probably going to have roaches, right? Does the same thing work twice? Well, we'll see. Suppy's going to see this army. He's down 18 army supply, which is not surprisingly much, but this army is also not as powerful as sometimes Protoss armies are, so the supply count is a little less effective. I like how active with these Zerglings. He's buying time. He knows that he has more production now than his opponent. Don't lose it, Overlord, Suppy. Well, Suppy's gonna go for it, Nate.
First party and shield time worth popped. A good couple of force fields are gonna hold a lot of these roaches away from Suppy, but the Zerglings soaking up some shots to let those roaches get a bit more damage in. The sentries on the right side taking a bit of heat as well, but Arthur's supply dropping a bit faster, but there's the next warp, and this pylon is in such a good spot.
Drones being pulled as well, and Suppy is actually down in supply. The force fields have been impeccable so far for Arthur. He's not losing too many of his sentries, he's not losing too many of his stalkers. The only thing that he's losing is zealots, and those are the units that he wants to see die. This actually looks really grim for our Suppy. Even though he still has 10 roaches, he still has a few queens, but the force fields, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, fantastic force fields, and this push executed about as well as we'd expect from Arthur. Should be able to get him up into the winner's match. Another wave of Zerglings will come up and try to end this, try to do something, but you know, there's no morale boost to make these Zerglings do better. There's no rally cap in StarCraft.
No, there isn't. This Protoss army is moving forward, and Arthur is going to continue to what he did in the WCS America round of 16, round of 32 Premier League last season, and that is just win his games with in a very straightforward fashion. There's really nothing else to it. He just makes a lot of gateways, makes a lot of gateway units, he marches across the map and he wins. He's going to take out this hatchery, he took out the natural. Suppy is eventually going to GG out after perhaps a little bit of disbelief, because I'm pretty sure that this is exactly what Suppy expected from the series. You could see that he was, you know, reasonably well prepared, that he had a good idea of, alright, I'm playing against Arthur, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I don't want to be surprised. He still got surprised. He was not able to defend against the gateway madness that Arthur brought to the table.
Gateway madness from Arthur. That's the best way to put it. Did he research +1 in any of those games?
No forge.
Was there not a single forge made in the series?
There was not a single forge made. At least there was not a single upgrade given.
No, not a single upgrade given. Well, that's one way to put it. All right, so Arthur will move on to the winner's match. Suppy falls to the loser's match. He's going to play against the loser of our next series. We're going to have a ZVZ, Roddy.
Yes, we are going to have a ZVZ. It's going to be a really fun one as well. It's going to be Sen versus Jigua, both players that have made it to the round of 16 in WCS America in the past. Jigua is sort of the last hope of Invictus Gaming, a Chinese team that has been very well represented within WCS in the previous seasons, but this season Jim didn't make it, Maxet didn't make it, XY is not part of Premier League, hasn't been for a while, so all hopes of Invictus Gaming are on Jigua, and I'm curious to see how far he will go. He's a very good Zerg player. Last season, he was even able to eliminate Liquid's hero, so that really shows what he's capable of. Either way, we're going to head over to a very small commercial break, and after that, we'll be back with some ZVZ.